Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. That's one way to wake up. Are you kidding me? One of my buddies hit me up in our fantasy football league and sent me a request for a trade at 4 a.m., which woke me up. And then I'm like, what the hell? Let me just see if anything happened on social media. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Here's a Woj bomb. Are you serious? We're shipping Harden out of town, and I'm thrilled. I'm pumped. I actually like the return that Daryl Morey got, and we will pick this thing apart. But due to the circumstances, thought he did a pretty damn good job. Now, before we talk about it more, let me tell you about cooking every single night. That's right. Broads, why are you telling me about your chef skills? Okay. It's because HelloFresh changed it all for me. A crazy schedule can make it easy to fall back into your dinner time recipe rut. Keep mealtime exciting with over 40 recipes to choose from every week. So there's always something delicious to discover with HelloFresh. HelloFresh does all the shopping and meal planning for you. Ingredients arrive right at your doorstep, pre-portioned and ready to cook, along with pictured step-by-step recipe cards. How easy is that? HelloFresh is 25% less expensive than takeout. So that means you get an easy home-cooked meal on the table and more money back in your pocket. Go to HelloFresh.com/50Broads and use 50Broads for 50% off plus free shipping. That's code 50Broads, and you get 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. All right, what we need to discuss. Do I got hair sticking on my face here? As you can tell, first off, I got the haircut. All right, so now we're doing a little Bradley Cooper action. I put some product in. I had something to do today. All right, you'll get some more information possibly later on. I'll just keep that as a tease. But let's get to the trade. Let's get to the trade. It's Halloween. It's my favorite holiday outside of Christmas. That stands on an island by itself. But after that, I'm a Halloweensman. I love myself some Halloween. I love candy. That's the thing. All right, there's bigger things to discuss here. I'm such an idiot. There's bigger things to discuss. The biggest takeaways for me with this trade is no James Harden being around this team and bringing in all the drama. And is he going to show up? Is he not going to show up? Will he ever play? Will he not play? What is Nick Nurse doing with Plan A compared to Plan B? Tyrese Maxey's growing into a star. And I think what we saw over the first 3 games have given the Sixers this different outlook and different perspective. This dude's something else, and he has an unbelievable skill set. Let's continue to let him be him. Let's continue to put him in a position where he's the guy as the guard. He's the guy. And you see what happens. He barely turns the rock over. He's picking up a good amount of assists, and he can score at will too. Let's see what he could become. Now, this isn't a finished product just because you moved on from Harden. I don't believe that anybody in that organization looks at the current roster and the current mold of some of the veterans they brought in. Robert Covington. He's not the same Robert Covington that maybe some Sixers fans are hoping that he is when he left town. And I always thought he was a little overrated, but that's neither here nor there right now. Robert Covington, Martin, Batum, Morris. Depth, some wing size. Okay, flyers, if you want to label them flyers, see if any of them stick. They're all on the back end of whatever they have left. Batum is ready to rock his 1,000th game in the NBA. There's not a lot to them, but can they be serviceable minute eaters? Yeah, I think that there's something to that. It'll be interesting to see what Kelly Oubre's role becomes. Do you ask him to do more, or do you like him being that threat as a rotational off-the-bench piece to lengthen out what your rotation is? It's all fascinating, and I trust Nick Nurse because you could see the handprints that he has on this offense and on this defense and on this unit, which has been a blast to watch through the first 3 games. It's funny, a lot of us in this city went with the narrative that it's going to take a lot for us to get sucked back into Sixers basketball. It's October 31st, and we are already all the way back in, ready for them to flirt around with our emotions. But that's what Tyrese Maxey can do when he flourishes. It is all because of what Maxey is doing with the basketball, because without that, it's all right, same old Sixers. Embiid's Embiid, and Embiid is an MVP like we already kind of know. We don't know what this role of Tyrese Maxey is going to look like. And moving on from PJ Tucker, so I started talking about Harden being out. That's number one. Moving PJ Tucker is massive, and even getting 2 first-round picks I thought was very important. So those were the key areas for me that I really studied with the return, more so than a Robert Covington or a Batum or anybody else like that. It was those 3 parts to this. PJ was a problem offensively. You were playing 5-on-4 with a man standing in the corner, not being a threat, and other teams willing to dare him to shoot the ball. I love his aggressiveness, and I think he does bring an element to this team in the postseason that relates to winning basketball. He does the hard-nosed, tough stuff, and you miss out on that, even though Patrick Beverley's on this roster, and he does something similar, and you can say maybe some of these guys could be scrappy that you brought in with this trade, but PJ Tucker did it to a level that is extremely respected for a reason, and you miss out on that. But if you look at what's going to change when the games get more important, and if Maxey is becoming a baller, all right, and if you have someone out on the floor, excuse me, that becomes irrelevant and can't do anything outside the perimeter, and guys don't have to respect his shooting, well, it's going to make it that much more tougher for everybody else and that much more difficult for a Tyrese Maxey, because you could put a lot more emphasis on stopping Embiid and Maxey because, well, that guy isn't a threat. That guy's not going to beat you. And if he does, fine. In a 7-game series, I'll take my chances that if we continue to let PJ Tucker shoot wide open looks as he's playing a ton of minutes, we'll win more times than not. Maybe one game PJ Tucker hits 4 or 5 and it hurts you. Other than that, he's a stiff and he's barely even willing to shoot the ball at all. So, I think of it from that level, X and O strategy offensively. It can really help Maxey when you remove him from the situation. Ben hurt you, same thing. PJ Tucker hurts you, same thing. And you get that contract off the books. I don't know where they go from here. Obviously, the relationship between Nick Nurse and Toronto have people wondering, is there something they can do? Can Daryl Morey make a trade? Morey isn't satisfied yet. This was step 1 in a multi-step process. There's still a lot to do. When looking at the Eastern Conference and a championship window, I don't think anybody's staring at this team internally thinking that they have the same exact power as the Boston Celtics, and they have the same exact power as some of these other teams, but they are reasonably close. They're not extremely far. Having Maxey and Embiid put you in the conversation, and now you need to help and improve elsewhere. Yes, there's a lot to be said about potentially what can happen in free agency and what has coming off the books, and you can pounce and really rejuvenate what this roster could look like in an off-season move. And it's hard to throw away this season and think about that right now because, well, I want to compete for a championship. I want to make a postseason run. I want to think about getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and finally seeing Joel Embiid get a chance to participate in that with an NBA Finals berth on the line. I want that. So that's more of a secondary thought, but it's a very important secondary thought that we just can't throw out because we're living in the right now. It gives you more flexibility in a lot of different scenarios, whether you're looking at making a move by the trade deadline, and there's some technicalities on when exactly you can trade some of the pieces that you just acquired and all that. But if you're looking to go get a LaVine, that's another somewhat of a rumor that's being talked about, is can you go get Zach LaVine and this and that. I'm open to all of it. I'm willing to see what they do from here. I don't know what direction they go in. They might let this marinate and see what this does for a little bit of time, and it takes a while before teams start to move their pieces because they got to figure out who they are, and only being 3-4 games into the NBA season, teams aren't ready to blow it up yet, even though the Chicago Bulls had a players-only meeting after game 1 or 2, and they're shutting the locker room doors and trying to figure things out. Well, once that happens, you know what trend is going on. And yeah, they have to work together and see what can be done when you pick up the phone and Daryl Morey tries to call some GMs and president of basketball ops. It takes time for things to mold, and I know that Daryl Morey is on the prowl. Apparently, Joshua Harris stepped in. For everyone who thinks Joshua Harris is a bum and does nothing, apparently, it's being reported by Shams. Don't make of that what you will. Maybe that's Joshua Harris knowing that he's getting insanely criticized by Sixers fans for the arena stuff and being the owner of the Commanders, and he's trying to get on the good side. Hey, why don't you leak some information? I do find it fascinating that Shams is the one that's throwing that out there on one of his 30, 45-second hits on Twitter. Breaking news, Joshua Harris called the owner. And I'm like, all right, well, somebody wants this out there for a reason. And I don't think it's Morey because it makes it seem like Morey did less. So is that a Joshua Harris leak? Huh. It's always something, man. This league is drama-filled to no end. Hey, it's NFL Week 8. That's right. My Bookie is the greatest sports book that you can utilize. If you found a $100 bill on the ground, you wouldn't walk past it. So why are you passing up on cashing winners every weekend? My Bookie has the biggest online selection of odds and contests to fill all your sports betting needs, anytime, anywhere. So you can turn that sports knowledge into cash in your wallet. Bet on NFL, MLB playoffs, or play a share of big cash prizes in the weekly blackjack tournaments. If you've been waiting for the right time to get in on the action, the time is right now. Make your winning move today. Sign up at MyBookie and use promo code BROADS and claim your deposit bonus. All right? And claim your deposit match, redeemable up to $1,000. Again, that's promo code BROADS to claim your bonus. Experience the thrill of sports betting right from the comfort of your home. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. The link is down below in the description. You do not want to miss out. Dude, Furkan Korkmaz again. Furkan Korkmaz is doing everything in his power to try and get back into NBA minutes. He's demanding trades again. I need to be in this trade. I need to get out of here. Yo, Furkan, you blow. How come nobody says, Broads, you were right? How come nobody says, hey, remember 3 years ago when your face would turn purple because you're pissed off that Furkan's playing minutes and people tried telling you that he could space the floor and hit threes? And I said, no. The guy sucks. The guy's terrible. The guy's pathetic. Listen to me. No one goes, Broads, you're a genius. I never get that. It's always, Broads, you're an idiot. It's just hard for me sometimes to fathom. Now, you just don't get the respect that you deserve sometimes when you nail something. I'm just saying, and I nail things more often. Paul Reed's not playing well. I didn't expect to see that, but Paul Reed is not playing well. Plenty of time for guys to figure things out. One, there's pressure on you. You better be able to answer and respond to that said pressure if you're going to become anything in this league. But there is more of a focus on what Paul Reed can be under Nick Nurse, and there was a lot of talk about him expanding his range and expanding his game. Some of the stuff he does, though, I remember discussing it in a previous pod on one of the post-game shows, that you were running your offense through Pat Beverly, dunking it down to Paul Reed on the block, and him taking shots from there, or baby hooks, and I'm like, dude, this is not going to cut it at all. But whether it's the pressure of an expanded role or just uncomfortable with Nick Nurse at this time, because when you implement so much new stuff, it takes a while. Communication, where he wants me to be on the floor. I haven't played with a Pat Beverly before. Some of the details surrounding the pieces with you on the floor. It's a whole new set of 5 guys. And I don't know. I'm just looking for reasons why maybe he's struggling out of the gate. But when you bring in this many bodies, well, who gets pushed down the depth chart here? When you bring in this amount of wing space. Now, you did release Danny Green, sayonara, and P.J. Tucker's no longer here. But Paul Reed's going to have to take a big step, and there's more competition, and I hope he rises to the occasion, because I do think when he plays his game, there's a lot to the energy. There's a lot to the way that he can change momentum in a game just by being that weapon that he is when he plays with juice, and he can get a block at the rim, and let's say he runs the floor and gets a nice slam, and he puts it in for 2, a nice jam, right? Like, he can definitely bring it, and when he does, the team gets life from that, and I value that with this core. But he's got to improve. There's no doubt about it. Let's get to some text messages here on the text board before we get to some calls. This is from my guy Ant out in California. Brick Ross has finally been traded. The Sixers are set for takeoff. Let's go, boys. I know Ant, he's been texting and calling for a while now, and he is not a fan of James Harden. There really wasn't any market for him. When you see the list of names and the draft picks and the pick swap and the second-round picks and all that, it's easy to mock the Sixers from a distance. But when you're involved in the back and forth and you understand what happened, he opted into this contract for a reason. He wasn't getting the big bag that he anticipated. There was no team willing to jump. I'm actually surprised that the Clippers even elected to do it right now because there was no pressure. There was no one else out there that was going to jump in front of you to get James Harden at all because there wasn't a market for him. So to get that second first-round pick, and the Clippers got creative, implemented a different team, to get a second first-round pick to follow over in a trade, all of that was a savvy move by Daryl Morey and Joshua Harris, or whoever made the phone calls late to make the push, whatever it was. You got 2 first-round picks and P.J. Tucker off the books. They are set up for the ability where they were once handcuffed and strapped to have more flexibility when there wasn't a ton of wiggle room. You don't really know that when you're an outsider, right? We don't know every detail on the Phoenix Suns right now contractually. We don't know every single little detail. You can look it up and do research, but we don't do the day-to-day grind out in L.A. to see the Clippers or any other team. But when you're in it, you have a totally different perspective. So I get clowning it from a distance because there was no big name to pop back in the return. There was never going to be. You weren't getting a big-time name. That was impossible. Nobody wanted James Harden at this time of his career for that type of cash and that type of return. So this makes sense. And due to where you are in the current makeup, on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being you knocked it out of the park, I'd say Morey got a 7.5. 7.5? Maybe 7.75? I don't know if I want to fully do the 8. On a letter grade scale, could I give them a better than a C+, because C would be satisfactory. That would be even. Better than a C+, probably not. Like a B-, maybe? C+, B- range? Even with the circumstances being what they are? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know how much faith I have in some of these names that came over, right? Rocco is what he is. They're, at best, serviceable role players, and this team has always been thin. So it does give you more options and more ability to try different things. There were times in the past when your team was dead, you knew they were dead because you had nothing else to go to. You were so damn desperate. Now, I'm not telling you the difference in winning or losing a series is Batum or Martin or Rocco or Batum or anybody else, Morris, this and that, whatever it is. Probably not. You're winning and losing with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris and those core guys, or why the ship either sinks or continues to float above water, and then we make a surge into the Eastern Conference Finals. I highly doubt it's someone else, but there's important 4-minute spans, important 5-minute spans that maybe you have more flexibility in a playoff season. This didn't work, or playoff series, excuse me. This didn't work. We can try this guy, and hey, that 5 minutes worked this game. Last game, it didn't work, going to someone else. Those 5 minutes, instead of losing the run by 5 points, it was 1 point, or you won by 1 point. And now that sets up the game differently when Joel Embiid enters. And as long as Joel Embiid balls out, then you get the win instead of failing. If Embiid falls on his face afterwards, and if Maxey turns the ball over afterwards, well, that 5-minute span doesn't mean as much. Does that all make sense? I don't want to put too much emphasis on a bench piece being the difference in getting to that next stage. It really does become superstar stuff. But another text here. This was the best deal the Sixers could have done under these circumstances. Not sure how much we're going to get from Batum, Martin, Rocco, Morris, but there are expiring contracts. And we have assets now and have even gained some salary flexibility after the season with Tucker off the books. So Sixers now have optionality, and if they like where they are at the trade deadline, they can make a move then. If they aren't looking like a contender at the deadline, they can wait until the offseason. I think that text perfectly describes where they are at this particular time, and I like where they are at this particular time. Let's take a call.
What's going on, bros? I really like the trade. We didn't give up for Harden that much more than we're getting back now. Ben was not going to play for us, and he's nothing now. The same thing with Drummond. And we gave up 2 firsts. Now we got a first and 2 seconds back. And I'm excited for the future. Who are the players outside of like a LaVine that we could trade for that might make this more of a contending team?
Maybe you could look at Toronto. OG's name has popped up. Siakam, just because people are excited about a bigger name. I don't know. And I'd be lying to you right now if I was sitting here and it's like, oh, it's obvious. You go get X, Y, and Z. I don't know. LaVine would be okay. I'd be okay with LaVine. I think that there's a lot that you can do. I think I'm so enamored right now on the ceiling of Tyrese Maxey that the biggest jump for me, not that I'm downplaying an acquisition like LaVine, and I think LaVine is a good player, but I don't want the Sixers fans maybe to overhype what he is. He's a good player, and he would help out this team for sure. He's better than some of the role players that you have, no doubt, and he would be a part of a big three with Embiid and Maxey, and he could be a good third guy. And then you also have Tobias Harris to factor in. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the name pops, and I would be very excited if he was here. I just want to make that clear, and I think you're in a better position to contend with him here than without him here. But there's also a cap on Zach LaVine. I think there's a reason why maybe it might be over in Chicago, and if he wasn't what he is, then he'd probably still be in Chicago, and they wouldn't be running themselves into the ground, if that makes sense. So, you know, it's just something that I have in the back of my mind with anything in regards to him. I don't know where they go. I don't, and I'm fascinated to see it. You know, I'm fascinated to see what Daryl Morey does. He's a go-getter. He likes to star hunt, to use a Brett Brown term, and I think we all anticipate that phone line starts to ring, 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 ring from a number out in Philadelphia. When you look up the area code, oh, geez, here we go. Here's 610. Here's 610. I'm a 609 guy. There's also 856. Here's a 215. Here's 215 coming in. It's got to be Daryl. What's next?
Hey, Birds. I'm just calling in about the James Harden trade. This is a live reaction, 2:30 in the morning. I am up drinking, playing fucking 2K, hilariously enough. He's already traded off my fucking team. But I just want to say that this actually is something that me and you argued about on Coffee with Birds, actually, one morning about 2 years ago. It was 2021. I was working, I remember. And me and you have not seen eye to eye since. But I straight up said, I fucking hate trading for James Harden. I would have rather kept Seth Curry and Andre Drummond. And you pushed back. And now, we don't even know the details of the trade, so maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but since they were pushing back on Terrence Mann, I'm going to guess we got a bag of chips and maybe a fuck you for him. So like I said, you traded 2 good pieces and a couple picks for a dude that gave you for a dude that literally did the exact same thing that Ben Simmons did.
And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I would do it again in a heartbeat. You have the information now in front of you. And yeah, you know what? The James Harden experience did not go as smoothly as maybe I would have thought when you did get him and trade Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons blows. He wasn't playing for you. He was causing all sorts of trouble. He was showing up to practice with his phone in his pocket. He was lying about mental health problems. You got James Harden for him, who gave you 40-plus in 2 playoff games. Now, that came with some ugliness, and that came with bad shooting performances, and that came with a lot of blah. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Seth Curry and Andre Drummond. What have they done? What has Andre Drummond and Seth Curry done that they were so wronged by being a part of that package to try it with Harden? I would do it again. I would do it again. One guy unwilling to play hoops, and then all the Nets fans are like, he's back. He's back. He's back. He gave you 8, 7, and 9. Gave you 8 points, 10 assists, 7 boards. He's back? Shove it. Shove it. He's back. Come on. Ben stinks. I'll take my shot with this guy, and It didn't work. Whatever. I'd do it again. Hey, before we continue, though, I need to tell you about my friends over at TickPick. Right now is a great time to head to the Wells Fargo Center, whether you want to see a hockey team compete and work their ass off or see Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid live. That's right, live. You won't want to miss it with Nick Nurse and his fingerprints all over this. If you click the link down below in the description, TickPick, and if you click that link and it automatically applies my promo code BRODES right there for you at checkout, you will receive $10 off of your purchase for anything over $99. It's a no-brainer. I'm basically saying, hey, here's $10 from me to you, Broads Media, giving you $10 to help give you a little push to get yourself down to the game. And you know that they have the best prices on the market, so much so that they guarantee it. If you find the same seats elsewhere at a better price than TickPick, we'll give you 110% of the price difference in the form of TickPick credit. And there's also upfront pricing. So the price you see at TickPick is the price you'll pay at checkout, period. And that's end of story. So do not miss out. Make sure you get yourself to a game. It's so easy. It's so smooth. It's so crisp. We've all seen some of these secondary markets, and it's a pain in the ass to get the ticket over, this and that. No. TickPick is easily the easiest that I've ever used, and I'll never use anything else ever again. Make sure you click that link down below in the description and get yourself to a game. One thing that I heard Tim Legler say today, I believe it was on First Take, he was saying the body language of Joel Embiid was extremely noticeable when he was playing with James Harden, because whenever things went bad for Harden in the playoffs, that automatically snowballed into Joel Embiid shrugging his shoulders and being upset. And it's like, dude, you are a Hall of Fame level point guard. You are one of the best facilitators in basketball. How are we struggling so much, and why can't you score? And you go from 40 points to 6 points to 8 points to 10 turnovers. How are you this sloppy? And that could really bleed into Joel Embiid's game, maybe down the stretch in a Game 6 against the Celtics at home, and you could have advanced, but you didn't. Maybe poorly in Game 7, which Joel Embiid has to take some of the blame of that as well. The only pushback I'd have on that part of his take would be Maxey's young and raw. Maxey's going to do everything in his power to succeed. It won't be for a lack of effort. It wouldn't be for a lack of trying. It's just for a lack of difficulty, and because he's so raw at it. If he struggles as the point guard in an NBA playoff Game 6 closeout at home to move on, well, doesn't that still apply? If that is the case, if Embiid is shrugging his shoulders because of Harden and being pissed because of Harden, in his theory, well, if Maxey's struggling and Maxey's turning the ball over and Maxey's not getting everyone involved, and whoever it is, it doesn't have to be Maxey, it's anybody. If anyone is doing it, does it matter who's doing it? Or is he going to be pissed because he's pissed? And if that's the case, just looking at Kobe, for example, not everybody's Kobe. But at some point, it's, enough with this. It's my time. Hey. My time. You go take over. Maybe he felt he couldn't do that with Harden because of his personality, because of what he holds himself to, and how he thinks himself very highly. And maybe he has more ability to step on toes with Maxey, and he feels that way, and Harden wouldn't let him. Maybe there's something to that, where he can close it out differently. Game 6, he couldn't touch the basketball barely. This year, things changed. I don't know. I'm just saying, that was my initial thought was, okay, well, you can say that. Well, let me be very clear. If that's upsetting him, he's going to get upset no matter who is struggling to distribute the ball. So I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but so I think. Let's go to Ethan.
What's good, bros? So the Sixers traded James Harden. I can't complain. I was getting really tired of the situation. I mean, I thought he was a distraction in the team. It's good to have him gone. And PJ Tucker, I mean, he was okay when he was here. Not really a big loss, in my opinion. The package we got in return, I really like the first-round picks. I think we can go get something good with that. The players, I don't really know what you're going to get out of Morris, Batum. Maybe something out of Martin. He's young and athletic, and I think Nick Nurse could really help him become a good basketball player. But maybe you get something out of Morris. I'm not really hopeful about Batum, but Morris and Martin could be good, and those first-round picks were pretty good. Anyways, I mean, it's great to be off of the James Harden situation. Go Sixers.
It is refreshing, especially when the team has been playing so great. I don't know what to expect from Morris. I heard Kyle Neubeck mention something along the lines of he checked in with some people and it seemed like he was almost like a throw-in more so than we expect to get stuff out of him. Serviceable role player veteran minutes is what any of these guys are going to provide for you. It's more about Harden being out, PJ being gone, flexibility, and the 2 first-rounders. And hopefully you can make a splash, whether it's at the deadline, and if you can't, then next year, it doesn't shut the window as much as everyone thinks it shuts the window when you move Harden for a bunch of random guys, is essentially my takeaway from it all. So with that being said, I appreciate all you guys so much. I love you to death. You know that. Come on now. I appreciate you all, and we'll be talking very, very soon. Go Sixers. That's a beautiful thing to wake up to today. Go Sixers.